Zelda, Zelda, Zelda. Is there anyone on this planet that hasn't heard of Zelda? And today is the Legend of Zelda's 35th birthday. That is crazy. The fact that the game series alone is old enough to have a nice house, a nice wife, and have an established career in finance is crazy to me. With The Legend of Zelda being one of Nintendo's main flagship titles still to this day, we're going to take a quick look at the original NES game to see what it's all about and if it's worth trying out nowadays. So welcome to a video where I take a game anniversary and revisit it. And if you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe for me. And yeah, enjoy the video. So to set the scene, the game is set in the fantasy land of Hyrule. The land is soon sent into chaos by the big baddie of the game and the series, obviously Ganon. Ganon leads his army into Hyrule and ends up stealing the Triforce of Power. Now at this point, in comes Princess Zelda. You know, the character the series is actually named after. Zelda, because she's smart, splits the Triforce of Power into 8 pieces across the land into underground dungeons. Now Ganon, he wants that Triforce too, so he then decides to kidnap Princess Zelda. Thankfully though, she managed to get the word out before her kidnapping to seek somebody courageous enough to save the kingdom. That courageous somebody is of course Link. Link then has the task of reassembling the Triforce and defeating Ganon. This is all from the manual, by the way. Now after you've done reading through the manual and have gone through the opening screen, you're immediately plonked into the world. At this point you're free to go wherever you want to go. I'd go inside that little cave if I were you though. You might find something useful. And of course, it's the old man. So after we've collected the sword, we now have something to defend ourselves with. We can move in a whopping 4 directions and obviously swing our sword in the direction we're facing. Well, when I say swing, it's more like a stab or a jab. We can also block incoming projectiles by simply standing still. I don't know about you, but it's always been nervy for me to simply stand still to block. Throughout our adventure, we will have Link scouring the overworld to locate the underground dungeons which house the pieces of the Triforce. These dungeons consist of a unique set of rooms, each interconnected by doors and passages. The dungeons are probably my favourite sections of the game. I like the more focused set of challenges that I get from them. And I also like that if you die, you go back to the beginning of the dungeon, rather than back to the overworld. The dungeons are simpler and less fleshed out than in other Zelda games, however that's to be expected and it's still a lot of fun. The boss fights in each dungeon consist of the most varied enemies in the game. I like this. I prefer these enemies to the ones in the overworld. That's because I can actually get used to the timings and patterns of the bosses, whereas a lot of enemies on the overworld have crazy and sometimes unfair movement patterns. If we can split the gameplay up into 3 categories, it would be exploration, combat and loot, the latter of which I'll speak about now. There's so many various things to find in this game. I mean, just look at this list. This is quite impressive for a console game back in 1986. Items such as the boomerang are useful to stun enemies and retrieve items from far away. The bomb is necessary for finding secret passages and is useful for destroying enemies. And the candle can be used to burn trees to find other secrets, just to name a few. The core gameplay loop of exploration, combat and looting is still prevalent in almost all action RPGs today. However, this game is definitely dated and it hasn't aged that well. The controls feel stiff as you can only move in 4 directions, you have to be overly precise with your attacks and enemies can be unpredictable as hell with no turning circle whatsoever. I'm not saying the gameplay is bad, because it's not, it can be genuinely fun, it just feels dated and mildly frustrating at times. However, this game is unplayable in my opinion without a guide or walkthrough. Some of these secrets are so cryptic that I just don't want to spend the time placing bombs on every single tile on screen just to find quote-unquote secrets. It would have been fine playing as a kid over the holidays, however I just don't have that kind of patience anymore. There are also several games that have come by with better secrets, even better Zelda games. At least those games show a crack in the wall or something to guide you in the right direction. Despite the negatives I have, it's still a decent game today, and an absolute classic. The impact the game had is well documented. It's pretty much the pioneer of the modern action RPG, even though at the time it was missing a few RPG-like features, such as experience points and actual character progression. The game did serve almost like a template for the ideal role-playing adventure games however, spawning many sequels, obviously. Okay, so do I think you should go back and play this game? Yeah, it depends. If you're a big modern Zelda fan then definitely. The gameplay can still be a lot of fun. I wouldn't recommend playing it the whole way through however. The mechanics are dated and frustrating at times, and if you were planning on actually beating the game, you've got to use a guide I'm afraid. Or at least a map or something to help you out. Some of the secrets are a pain and some of them are necessary to move forwards. I don't see why you shouldn't try this game though. It's readily available on an emulator which is on pretty much all devices, and it's a freebie if you own a Switch and Nintendo Online. All in all, The Legend of Zelda is an absolute classic that I think people should try but not beat. It definitely feels and looks like a relic of the 80s, however it can still be fun to play with a guide to help you through the cryptic moments. Happy birthday The Legend of Zelda, and thanks for watching.